Alright, so good evening. Happy, merry March 10th, 2016, and here I am again on YouTube once more, and been watching the stirring clouds of the whole Windows 10 debacle. Yes, I'm going to use air quotes, because let's face it, I like using air quotes in quotes. Anyway, let's look at Microsoft as a whole. So, started off with DOS. You can't go wrong with DOS. I mean, it's DOS. I mean, it's not like it can crash, right? Yeah, probably it can, but you got to be really smart to do that. Next along came Windows 3.1. Now, I remember Windows 3.1. We had a computer long time ago. This was like 1989 or so. We had a Windows 3.1 computer, and somehow my grandmother had gotten hold of a Windows 3.1 computer, which was something she had at work, and then we got a copy of the installation discs, floppy disks, which I'm like, who uses those anymore? I don't have any anymore. They're gone. No more floppy disks. But, just because I was starting out and figuring out, ooh, this is interesting. Let's see, what can it do? And it was Windows 3.1.1, and it was the network version of Windows 3.1, which, if you looked at the two, you couldn't really tell a difference unless you were like Uber network guru, Microsoft Windows programming, networking, whatever. Needless to say, I wasn't that at the time. But Windows 3.1.1 came and went, and eventually Windows 95 came along. That was, a more graphical user interface version of Windows that, I kind of liked it there at the beginning. It was useful. It had its moments. Still ran all the old Windows 3.1.1 and 3.1, Microsoft Word and those sorts of programs that we still have the disks for, so we just pop the disks in and bam, we install Word and we still have it, and it was okay for what it was. We didn't have much. We were poor. We scrounged for parts, and Dad did like weird little classes and stuff, and that was, that was the norm for the 1980s/90s. And it was only later on, after 95 was done and 98 came out, there was the whole 98 upgrade. Now, in addition to the 98 upgrade, there were like 2 or 3 versions of 98. There was like Windows 98 SE, which was like 2nd edition, and then there was just the regular Windows 98, and then there was the upgrade disk thing that would only update 95 to 98. And I think I worked on my uncle's computer one time, one of the ones that he had at his house back then that had that operating system on it, and I was confused as to why. I mean, the computer itself, now that I look back at it, had, it had suffered a beating. I mean, computer can only take so much before it just decides no more. Needless to say, that computer had decided no more. And so, when your computer reaches that point, it's time to replace. Not necessarily go and reinstall the same software again, but replace it. So after the 98 era, there was the whole NT, the Windows NT phase, which I played with Windows NT a little bit. I preferred Windows 2000 at that junction because I had a copy, and it had, it was the first operating system I actually had that had a password protection field. And you're like, how cool is this? I can keep people from logging into my computer if they don't have my password. I encountered, a fair number of Windows, 2000, there were a couple of versions of Windows 2000, but the one I encountered most, I think, was Windows 2000 Professional, which wasn't any different than any of the other versions of Windows 2000, other than there was like a remote desktop feature, which was also kind of cool, but the downside of that is the computer that you were using to remote access into it also had to be a 2000 professional computer as well. And then you could communicate back and forth unless you decided you wanted to try using the installation disk thing, which kind of worked, but most often when I tried it, it didn't work. Of course, at that point in time, my computers were pretty much, well, they were just pieced together junk and whatever, I had on hand that I was given, the previous Christmas, which was, hey, Micah, don't you want, these 15, antique computers that we have at the library that we're just giving away? And I was like, sure, why not? I'll take them. They had been part of some network that had been replaced, 20 years ago, that they had just left sitting in a back room somewhere for 10 years more than that. So really stuff that was older than the stuff that I had started out with, which was pretty much a Apple IIe computer, which was really just took a can of air to it one day and everything inside blew away in a cloud of brown, tan. It looked like nicotine dust is what it looked like. It was disgusting. That computer quickly went away. But after the 2000 era, there was the whole Windows ME, which harkened more back kind of toward, the Windows 98 feel, but still had the NTFS file system option that you could do stuff with. And you could delete just one little insignificant file out of the C directory and it just explode. There wasn't a restore option. There wasn't an, oh, well, we can just, copy it from some other ME system and dump it in and it'll work. No, you've got to wipe the drive completely, reformat, reinstall, and then you've lost all your data at that point because thumb drives were like, what's a thumb drive? What is that? You'd have your secondary, hard drive in the system, and ME would be like, oh, well, we're going to install little tab files on this drive so that when your main drive fries, both drives are toast and you've got to start completely over. That was a mess. My mainstream computer for a long number of years was, of course, XP, your, long-running, stable, it was the operating system. And I ran an XP system probably from 2000 until 07, 08, 09. So I ran XP for 10 years. And then, when 7 came out, I was like, okay, so XP is getting discontinued. It can't run everything I need to anymore. This fancy new computer that I was building at work just wasn't going to run on XP, but I would still work on them because XP was a popular operating system. And until the day Kinnico Computers closed in Young Harris, I'd work on an XP system at least once a week when I'd come in. And, it was popular. After XP, Vista. Vista was like they had taken XP and like added just enough to make you hate Microsoft again. After the ME debacle, you liked 7, and then Vista comes along and you're like, this is the ME debacle all over again. The whole Windows Millennium Edition. Yeah, totally air quotes again. But Vista, Microsoft just made a mess when it came to Vista, because it was like, we're pushing a new operating system just to make money. And yet Vista, initially when Vista came out, I got to kind of trial test Vista because, I was working for a computer repair business. We got, the Microsoft service pack, trial pack, software things. And so I got to try Vista, and I thought, what is this rubbish? This is like garbage. And then Windows 7 came out, and I realized, aha, now I see what Vista was. Vista was the alpha version of Windows 7. And so I did some research and looked into Windows 7. And Windows 7 is technically not even Windows 7. It's like here, the numbers just totally don't match up. It's like they haven't for a long time. And the version numbers just still, to this day, don't match up. And right now, here it is, 2016. This is my third Windows 7 computer since 2010, give or take. And I looked at Windows 8 when it came out and thought, hey, this would be fine on tablets, but on anything else, garbage. Windows 8.1 came out, and they were like, well, we're going to appease the masses by, bringing the start bar back. Now, don't get me wrong, Windows 8.0, Windows 8, was like, we're going to take the start bar away. You don't get a start bar. You get this tiled monstrosity. Felt like, I was living in the 1970s again, which, of course, I didn't live in the 1970s, is before me, but is like looking at the Brady Bunch tile screen thing, and all of these people going, and like, it was just a mess. You couldn't find anything. You had to go swivel, 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 to find anything. And then even then, half the time you couldn't, because the navigation was a godforsaken mess. You'd have like a back button, but then you wouldn't have like the forward button to go back forward after you'd gone back, thinking that you were going to find something in the previous screen you were in when it's not there. And it was just a mess. So 8.1, they came out with it just so they could say, look, we're sorry. Here's a new version. We brought the start bar back. We shouldn't have taken it away. And it was still a mess. I mean, it was not as much a godforsaken mess as Windows 8 was, but, when you just tack a 0.1 onto an operating system, unless you're Mac, what do you expect? It's a Microsoft product. It's a Microsoft world. We just live in it. So I looked at 8. I looked at 8.1. I trolled YouTube. I watched the videos. I watched all of the reasons why not to update to version 8 and subsequently 8.1. And I thought, yeah, I'll stick with 7. And then, I guess like last year or so, the Windows 10 upgrade notification started appearing, and I was like, spyware. Lovely. Spyware on my Windows 7 computer, which I like to keep relatively clean because at that point in time, I'm openly admitting, yes, I worked for Comcast for a year under a subsidy of some other thing that technically wasn't Comcast, but they were like the Comcast was outsourcing to them, and I got a paycheck, you know, every other week. It didn't have the word Comcast anywhere on it. It was a completely separate thing. I lost my faith in humanity. You know, customer service for the worst customer service, company in the United States. I'm not saying this is a mean thing. There's hundreds and thousands of things out there that say this. People who complain about how terrible Comcast is. And any internet service provider, you're going to run across the people who love it, the people who hate it, the people who are indifferent. I'm thankfully indifferent now that my service provider, which is Windstream, is now behaving itself. I'll knock on wood just to be safe, because it used to be every other month the speeds would kill out or it'd stop working altogether, or the modem would start curling black acrid smoke, and I had it replaced a couple of times when it did that, or it just died, or they thought, well, when did you last have your modem replaced? Well, we'll replace your modem. And by the time everything was said and done, I got a dual pair coming in, running from a new line they ran from the pole to the thing, and from the thing in, and replace the modem, replace the filters, replace stuff at the outside pole right outside, replaced stuff in the line between that pole and the other main pole, replace stuff at that main pole, replace stuff down at the junction, wherever the junction is. They fixed pins in the main office, wherever that is. I don't think it's the place that's in the middle of town, in the middle of the other side of town, which used to be like a billing office, but doesn't look to be very alive anymore. I see maybe one car anywhere near around it at any given time if I'm on that side of town. But whatever. Then it was like, okay, after I quit that, my blood pressure went way down, which I was happy for. I felt a lot better because I wasn't being stressed out all the time by all the people who, well, let's face it, were having about as bad a problem as I was, because the focus on it was not, oh, well, we're going to fix your problem. We're just going to restart your modem. We're going to rebuild your connection. We're going to, trouble check, and really monkey push a button, click, monkey push a button, click. And I was doing that for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it was garbage. Much like Windows 10 is, let's face it, garbage. So I tell all of my customers, all of my relatives, all of my friends, really, it's safer. Don't update to Windows 10. The reason why, it's going to kill your current computer. Now, when I say it's going to kill your current computer, you're not just going to turn your computer on one day and black acrid smoke pours out and the little dead Apple, I'm a sick iPod little icon will appear on your screen. No, nothing like that. What it comes down to is, when you used to get a computer back, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, every computer you'd get when you'd buy, brand specific, like Dells and Gateways and IBMs and anything like that, they'd have a little sticker about the size of your thumbnail that says designed for this operating system, whether it be 95, 98, ME, XP, 90, the weird kind of 99 they had there for a while, which was like one of those custom things that some computer companies did. I had one of those. It was technically like a Windows 98 computer, but it had so many different mods done to it that it technically wasn't a Microsoft product. But, that's neither here nor there. Then, computer companies still to this day, mostly with laptops, you'll get a laptop and right down on the keyboard, right below it, on one of the sides, either side of the mouse touchpad, you'll see that same little thumbnail size sticker that says designed for, whatever operating system is out at the time. Mostly right now, still seeing pretty much everything says Windows 8, Windows 8.1. Mostly Windows 8.1. If you go to Walmart right now, Office Depot, you look in their computer section, you look at their laptop displays that show all of the little laptops that you could, buy that are just the display models. You'll see usually in the right-hand kind of corner, down in the right-hand corner, you'll see that little sticker, and it'll say designed for Windows 8, Windows 7, whatever. That being said, that is the operating system that computer is designed for. That is what'll run it. Now, that is not to say you can't take that 8.1 computer and wipe the drive, put Windows 7 on it, and with a little bit of work, if you're a computer anything, and you know where to go to pull drivers, and you've got your USB, network card or some sort of Wi-Fi dongle that you can easily install to get internet to pull drivers, because obviously if you install Windows 7 on a Windows 8 designed laptop, it may or may not install the network drivers that you need to get on the internet to be able to pull the drivers that you need for it. Yeah, double-edged sword there. Try installing drivers for something when you don't have an internet connection. And, it's like, yeah, that won't work unless you've got like the driver disk, which make you a bet 9 times out of 10 that driver disk, if they even give you one, they usually don't nowadays, probably doesn't have the operating system that you're trying to install. So when it comes down to when Windows 7 is completely obsolete and Windows 10 is completely taken over everything, and Windows 11 isn't any better than the garbage that 10 is, it's time to switch to a Mac. It's the next most popular thing out there, because last time I looked at basic statistics, Windows Microsoft held more than half of the market. The Apple Mac stuff, which there's a bunch of different versions of it still out there. They're all pretty good if you've got a Mac. If you're a Mac person, don't switch to PC. If you're a PC version person, the likelihood of you switching to Mac isn't very likely, because a lot of your programs may or may not work. I used to work off a Mac when I was at Kinnico, and I found a couple of different nice programs that could make that computer, which was a Mac, run all of the PC software that I'd normally use on a day-to-day basis. I didn't like to use the Mac because it was, 5 years old and it was out of date and it was slow, and yeah. Needless to say, it was a pain in the butt to fix, and when it finally died, well, it wasn't my problem anymore. Anyway, don't update to Windows 10. If it says that it's wanting to, there are YouTube videos right now that will tell you all of the little security packs and all of the little patches to not let install. I'm not going to list them on my video because they are out there. Just, search for, prevent Windows 10 upgrade. And that should get you all of the Windows service pack files that you shouldn't install or should uninstall as quickly as possible, and then prevent from installing later on. You can also Google that, which is far easier because you'll get the list and you won't have to sit through a video, and you just Google prevent Windows 10 upgrade and it'll list all of the service pack files. This is Fwoggle signing off. See you in the next video.